Hi, it's Nancy
Hello.
and Kacey. And we were just having an amazing conversation off the camera. And I said, I'm just going to hit record. And I was saying that I don't exactly have my ducks in a row right now. And
That's
you
right.
were saying,
Yes, I was saying that it's a very difficult time to have our ducks in a row because the row keeps changing, or the path that the row is trying to follow keeps changing, or the path isn't even known. And so I think being kind to ourselves about it. I mean, last week you twice were exposed to people who had been around COVID positive people. And I can't imagine, your ducks couldn't have been in a row for that.
my
Mm.
ducks were all over the place. My
Right.
ducks were all over the place. I was exposed at my radio job and also at my food pantry where I volunteer. And there's so many things that have to be done, so many thoughts you have to have, so many trips to get a test, so many hours to wait for results. I'm scrambled. But
Uh-huh.
when I'm with you, I feel steady. So thank you.
So, let's just talk till COVID is done with. How about that? We'll,
Okay.
we'll just talk till the vaccines have arrived, everyone's vaccinated,
And then we'll say
and
goodbye.
and and one of our partners can come out, their husbands, and say,
Think about my husband is home today because when his boss, he told his boss, when he showed up for work
oh,
Monday, um, my wife was exposed twice. And
okay.
his boss, my husband's in construction, his boss says, look, my dad has cancer. So I need you to get 2 tests and don't come back until you've got 2 negatives. So he couldn't get the rapid tests up here. In New York, we're like 4% positivity now,
Okay.
which is
Hmm.
really high for us because our governor has done such an amazing job to get our numbers down.
I
Numbers.
follow him, Kacey. He's
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah. I'm not blind to all of his ways, but I have to say he did handle this well.
Yes.
And he got us down to like under 1% for for the latter part of the summer and into the fall, and now we're up to 4%. At
Right.
least in Westchester, I think it's my Westchester County 4%. Anyway, our numbers are going up fast,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's PTSD. My God, we just did this. We just
Right.
did this in March. By the way, did you notice my hair? This is my first blow dry since March. Our
Is that
other
what we're
shows,
seeing, Kacey? Wow.
first since March. All my other shows, I was wearing my pandemic bun,
Right.
which will be back, but I did get a blow dry today. So it's PTSD. It's like, wow, wasn't it just March? Didn't we just go through all these numbers and the hospitalizations? Uh, and it's stress,
Yes.
and it's sorrow.
It is. It's stress, and it's regroup. It's back to ducks in a row.
Yeah.
We're in Virginia right now. We're changing the guidelines have been tightened again as of today. I think
Yeah.
25 group is the limit.
Mm,
And so, I was thinking of organizations that's going to impact, who have been opening doors, and now you know,
right.
okay. So to be clear, I'm not complaining about any of this. I want to be clear that I appreciate the seriousness of our situation, um, and all of us coming together to learn to cope together. And actually, Kacey, I'll use it as a segue to other conversations here today. When I did radio interviews for Disentangle, it was August and September were the dominant months.
Mhm.
Often I was asked, from the perspective of the Disentangle book, how that material can help us with coping with the pandemic. So I just want to reiterate that it helps a great deal in learning how to not be reactive to it, how to quiet and center ourselves, how to set healthy boundaries that respect ourselves and other people. And I'm not going to go on and on about it right now, but anything listeners might be hearing right now, as you and I talk today more about entangled relationships, they certainly apply to how do we all live together in a
Right.
pandemic.
Absolutely. So I had Nancy on my show back in August or September, and I kept inviting her back and inviting her back and inviting her back. And finally I said, let's do a Zoom so I can see your face because I love this book so much. disentangle, and I feel like the whole world is now watching my personal therapy sessions. But I'm good with it. So here's the thing. I think, as we were talking last time, that all of my relationships, many of my relationships were entanglements. I never had my own boundaries, never had my own boundaries. So I'm just growing them now. And this pandemic, just today, the weight of the world came off my shoulders. One of the things I was stressing about so much was, where I work, there are no clear COVID rules.
Okay.
There are suggestions. There's lots of radio stations in my building. So there's suggestions. Nobody wants to step on anybody's toes. There's different management styles. And in any given day, I can work in 3 different recording studios.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
oh, that one's closed, so go in that one, Well, we all need the same hygienic rules, I believe.
Right. Yes.
Today, right before now, I sent an email that pinpointed and outlined my boundaries. And I said, listen, the boss had sent out an email about these general guidelines, and I was able to formulate in my head my true thoughts that said, to really address this issue, we need rules that cover the whole building, not one
It's
studio
beautiful.
at a time.
Yes.
And we need to be accountable. We need to be accountable. And then I outlined my boundaries. I said, please treat me, this is to the whole staff, please treat me as if I am contagious, and I will treat you the same way. Don't come to my desk with a piece of paper when you can email it. And on and on and on. And don't come in the studio when I'm on the air. And don't come in the studio when I'm recording. Please respect my boundaries. We are not going to get a second chance at this. And I have erred on the side of being polite.
Yes. And that's a dynamic from last week, which is the people pleasing, but the polite.
Yeah.
So again, to stick though with what you're saying, Kacey, what a great list. I mean, what made you just say, I'm going to do this? I mean, what was the moment?
It's been building over these last many months where
Right.
it's so funny. I was afraid to go to work. Every time I was in a room, I was hunched over and afraid somebody's about to walk in and bombard me with ridiculous conversation when they're not wearing a mask. It's hard enough to fight the virus, but then to have to fight the people around you and to not have clear management support. And I'm not throwing management under the bus. I'm just saying, not everybody's style works for this time. And I needed to stand up and say it. And it took me a long time. And when I tell you, I was sweating, shaking, and literally praying out loud when I hit send.
Okay. So it was in an email form.
Email form. Email form. And it was in response to my boss's email to the whole staff. And almost immediately, I got 2 staff members right back saying, God, thank you so much you said that. That needed to be said. One guy wrote, good effing job. So,
yes. Kacey. Yeah. And that's 2 points on that. That's what we ultimately, disentangling is about. It's about stepping back enough that I can figure out what it is I think, what I need, how I feel. Really, I'm going to keep singing self-recovery. That is my phrase right now. And then writing out or stating, as you did, what it is I need. Because if we keep waiting for other people or just ignoring the problem, we get sicker. And in the pandemic case, we really can get sicker. Right. So that is beautiful that you did that for yourself. I mean, I really want to highlight, you in part did that for you. It helps the whole office, but it is also something you did for you.
And I have to say, and I never dreamed I would say this, there was a tiny little voice in my head that said, use your power. You've been on the morning show 20 years in this building. Use your power. Because if you shine this light, it's going to allow other people to ask for what they need. Right. But let me tell you the interesting dynamic that I know is in Disentangle. I created this situation. I
Okay.
created a situation where I'm Casey, the good girl, who smiles at the boss and says
Mm-hmm.
the nice thing and never disagrees. And no matter what you need me to do, I'll come
Right.
in on my day off and do it. You
It'll
know,
be done. Mm-hmm.
it'll be done always with a
Mm-hmm.
smile. That's not real. I
Right.
created that. I created a place where I gave away all my power.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
it was almost impossible. It was really hard for me to use my voice. I'm a grown woman.
Right. So, when you were giving away your power and being agreeable in the way you described, I'm guessing at first you weren't aware of doing that. Tell us the progression of that, because that'll fit with something I'm going to comment on in a while.
My whole
Right.
life,
Life.
when it comes to people in position of power, especially at work,
Right.
and I can say, well, I was a girl in a man's world, and I smiled to went along to go along, or whatever that phrase is. This is always, it never dawned on me, and I'm in this business since 1985, it never dawned on me to be who I actually am. Never dawned on me.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and that's what one of the things I was going to highlight today is um we were talking about characteristics that have us entangled, people pleasing,
Mm,
conflict avoiding. This is in the previous show. Um, and we're going to get back to control as a topic here today. But the some of us are more inclined than others. And so it's like, how come? Why be, and I think, Casey, I simply talk about it in as three circles that I would say are concentric. And in the center is individual. It's who I am as a person. I'm not going to teach this right now, but that could be either. I do think we are inclined to be, say, nice people or thoughtful people or sensitive people. I think there's some innate innateness within us.
mm,
We can also be anxious people or shy people. Anyway, so at the heart is the center is who I am as an individual. The next ring that holds that are family systems and our influences. We've been talking about family roles in other shows,
mm,
and this is where all sorts of I'll use psychology language here right now. A little bit of attachment issues can come in, trauma can. What happened to us somewhere along the line? We may have that people pleasing part of us may have been really reinforced. Like
mm,
that is our role: keep the peace, keep people happy, or entertain, or be charming, or the things we've talked about.
mm.
But that family systems runs really deep, and sometimes that's where we spend a lot of time in our recovery, in our
Right.
self-recovery, is
Yeah.
healing there. The third ring, I'll just say this and then we can wander wherever, are social, cultural, political, we could have religious influences, worlds that we grew up in. And we've touched on that
Right.
too. Family meals that have been traditional and are prepared by moms who not only have some of the dynamics of management and control, but culturally, that's probably what's going on too.
Right.
So we are influenced in all three of those spheres. So that's why I ask you how long that had been with you.
Always.
And yeah, always,
Yeah.
always.
I can remember being a child. Now, this is really sounding like a therapy session, but I can remember being a child, like, I don't know, first grade, second grade. My parents had a big party, like on a Friday night for somebody's something, right? There was
Right.
always an Italian household. You were always having a party for somebody's something.
That's great.
And I think it was a Friday night, and Saturday morning, everyone's still asleep. And I, as a little girl, cleaned the whole house. And when my parents woke up, they were shocked. Like, you did this? You loaded the dishwasher? You, whatever miraculous thing I
Right,
did.
Casey.
And
Yes.
that was it. I
Yeah.
became the little girl who fixed everything.
Right, right. Leave it to me.
Leave it to me, I'll take care of it.
And I
That,
don't think I've ever written that in a book, but it is that dynamic of I got this or leave it to me. And again, on a continuum, nothing bad about that until everything has been left to me. And then I'm not very happy.
Is there a link between people who have no boundaries and people who are control freaks? Because I was that too. And that's the story we promised to share at the beginning of this show, at the
Okay,
last
so
show.
go for it. Go for it.
The moment I knew I was a control freak.
Right. Yeah, go for that. Go for that. Yeah.
Okay. I was living Main Street, Cold Spring, New York. Picture postcard, antique village on the Hudson. I lived over the flower shop. Oh my God, what a life. Single girl on a budget, but my apartment was so adorable. And I loved to just fix it all up. My sister, 6 years younger than me, was 9 months pregnant, carrying a child on her hip. So she had, like, I don't know, maybe, a 2-year-old on her hip and a baby in her belly. And she came to visit, so she just walked up a big flight of stairs in the winter with boots on. She opened the door and I said, "Quick, get your boots off. You know you can't wear boots in my house." And in that minute, I'm like, what the heck is wrong with me? I am a complete control freak. That has so many rules. No boots in the house, coasters, the whole, like, and I'm like, wow. So I've been unraveling that for the last, I don't know, my nephew's 24 years old. Sorry, Ella's on patrol. Somebody just walked past the house. That's going to go on for a while. But okay. Anyway, I'm going to mute myself and you tell me about when you knew you were a control freak back in the day, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's interesting. I'll say a little bit first, because we stopped our session last time with talking about, we haven't even talked about how control can be a dynamic that causes us to get entangled. And as I start, I want to say that here I go again, up to a point, it's okay. We do have to manage children and we do have to keep some order in things in order to get to work, get jobs done, figure out a grocery list and get food stocked up. I mean, it goes on and on. So it's not bad up to a point. But it really can complicate relationships when we're trying to control another adult. I mean, and I've been off at a virtual conference this week and listened to a couple of, everything was great, but it reinforced this notion, Kacey, that in our adult to adult relationships, and we've talked about them too, adult children and their parents, mutual is the word, mutual respect, mutual consideration for each other. Mm-hmm. So what over and over, we want mutuality and not control. So when I realized control, it wasn't as wonderfully clear cut in that moment. I started my recovery path in 1988. My husband and I had, what was the order? We had our daughter, and 3 months later, it became clear that he needed to stop drinking, and we both went into recovery at that point. And I will add, in addition, 5 months later, Grace is fine now, but she had a serious medical condition that had us in a hospital for a month. And so we had a baby, we went into recovery with some drama around that, and we had hospitalization. And so as all that quieted down, I started really looking at Robin Norwood's book about women who love too much. When you keep wishing and hoping he'll change, mm-hmm. is the subtitle. I just think it's so great. I mean, I think it could be people who love too much. Mm-hmm. I don't think it has to be women at this point. But so she had a list of characteristics of people who do this. And number 5, I remember it, said, we manage and control other people. You could have knocked the wind out of me. Mm-hmm. I had never thought of myself as a controlling person. But in that moment, not only did Robin Norwood say it, but all of a sudden I became very deeply aware of the small, I want things, I want to have this conversation now, I want to have these plans made, and ideally I want these plans made in the way I want these plans made. And I mean, lots of mundane stuff. And all of a sudden, that layer of my onion, as we talk about healing and layers of onions, just was so informed. I had thought of managing and controlling on the good side of the line, and I had never thought of it on the going too far side of the line. And I still keep that in mind. I have to work with myself. If someone, I wish I could come up with a great example. If someone has done something for me, well, let's just make it at home. If Monty has gone ahead and taken care of, we have a special place. Here's a good example. We have a special place we keep extra groceries during this COVID time because we only go to the store every 2 weeks. And so if I say, go put, these can go, it's a gigantic cooler. These can go in the cooler. I'm going to tell you, I can be picky enough that I'd rather be the one to put them in the cooler and organize the way that they are. And in that moment, Kacey, I have 12 things to do, and he's standing there saying, how can I help?
Mm-hmm.
I need to let him organize the extra food in the cooler however he wants.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
He doesn't even know that story. He doesn't know in that moment that I want to say, now, would you stack these on top of the other cat food cans that are in the cooler and make sure the lighter stuff is on top of it?
I think a lot of women are really relating to that. It gives me great joy to organize. It really does.
Yes.
I love to organize, and I love to do stuff like that. That stuff is important to me. It's not important to my husband.
Then, and Kacey, that goes back to my inner circle of of individual influences. I really think some of us are more inclined to like to organize or to be organized. I mean, I think some of it are innate abilities for which I'm not giving out stars or A+ at all. I mean, I think being creative and spontaneous is fabulous, and that has some innateness as well. Okay. And that's great too. But I think our pleasure in organizing is not somebody else's pleasure. But the tangle comes when I'm telling him how to stack cat food cans.
Right. Or in my case, when my sister was raising the 3 kids, the tangle comes when I say, I'm coming over because I have to reorganize all of your cabinets. There's no reason why your Tupperware is sticking out. My Tupperware is not sticking out. I am a master at Tupperware.
So tell me what happened. How does that go? Does she say thank you, or does she say give it a break?
She's really mild-mannered. Like, I don't know what goes on under the surface, but she doesn't show a lot of emotion. So I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she's like, here's what she said. This is the moment I was like, okay, so you're a jerk. When she said, I'm doing the best I can. And it's like, yes, you just carried a 2-year-old up 2 flights of stairs with a baby in your belly. You are doing the best you can. And I'm saying, hurry, get your boots off. What?
With your warm and fluffy slippers on, probably.
Right. Exactly.
In your beautiful home.
In my beautiful
home. Your lovely over the flower shop home. It was beautiful. But you're right. And I mean, I'm glad you used the word jerk, because I think as I go down the line, that is completely what I feel like at times when I have explained to people. I can go all the way back. When Monty and I got married decades ago, we got married here on the property. And my dad that morning was saying, what can I do to help? And I said, well, the rails on the side porch need to be wiped off. And so I went out with him.
On your wedding day.
with the bucket and the sponge and started showing my dad how to wipe the rail. Okay. He called me Petey, and he said, Petey, I think I know how to do this. And I mean, that was really a nice way.
Why did he call you Petey?
I do not know. And he called me Petey. And that's it. It's not anyone else's nickname for me. It was his. Yeah.
You want to know what my father called me? Hazel.
Okay. All right.
Hazel was a maid on a TV show.
Oh, I remember.
What TV show was Hazel on?
Hazel.
Hazel, that was
Hazel.
That's what my father called me, Hazel, because I was cleaning something because I was going to take care of it.
That's right.
So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so, folks, again, I hope we're making sense when we're telling these stories on ourselves. They make sense to us. I hope that they do. I mean, I think that to put it in the context of the show, you and your relationships, I think when I take something literally out of someone else's hand to show them how to do something, as I did with my dad and the sponge on a rail, how hard is this, I think it's offensive. I think it is disempowering them. It is not mutual, Kacey. It's not mutual. It's not honoring their style or how they would do it.
Right.
And it's also, in its own way, keeping it on my side of the line as something else I'm worried about. Am I going to go back out and check the rail after my dad has wiped it off? I didn't. Did I go upstairs today and check the COVID cooler? Hey, the COVID cooler. That's because I brought some more supplies home today. No, that's part of it too, is for me to let it go at that deeper level and honoring, not keep it on me, and honor that other person's doing what they did, how they did it.
Wonderful. Thank you. So the question that we want to underline today is, what kind of people are most likely to get into entangled relationships?
Yeah. Well, I think I'll just use it almost, Kacey, as a summary of last time and where we are now. I mean, I think that if we tend to be people pleasing, I love what you said, polite. You've been being polite. A word that I have for myself is considerate. And it's interesting, sometimes my considerateness is woven with a few other things like control. I'm being considerate. I'm going to go ahead and do this so you don't have to get up, but also I'm getting it done like I want it to be done.
Mm-hmm.
When I want it to be done, maybe. Okay. So, but people pleasers, being considerate, being polite, none of that is wrong unless our very self is either getting worn out or shut down. Okay. Conflict avoiding can be on there as well. People who are inclined to do a lot of extra caregiving, and I've said many times, and we talked about it in our last show, just people who are fixers. Mm-hmm. And I do work with people and friends who openly say we like to organize, they like to fix, and their brain goes right toward fixing. Mm-hmm. That's great. But sometimes everybody doesn't want to be fixed. Sometimes those teenagers of ours really just want to be listened to. Sometimes our partner doesn't need us to fix it. They just wanted to be listened to.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. I have another question for Nancy L. Johnston, MSLPC, LSATP, MAC. One day we'll talk about what all those things mean. If you're in an entangled relationship, is it doomed, or can an entangled relationship disentangle and get healthy?
Yeah, no, and that's, Kacey, it is not doomed. It is, we are here just sharing lots of joy and funny stories and meaningful stories so that to begin to shine light on the fact that no, we can readjust at any point. And that's what the shows starting next week are going to start looking at tools, and shows from here on out are going to be offering tools that will help us to do this self-recovery.
Right.
It just takes, some of these earlier shows here are about us helping people to become aware of what we're talking about,
Mm.
what an entangled relationship looks like, you know, what might it happen. I've had a few people over my interviews to have no idea what entanglement meant. This is not with you, this is with other interviews though, where people think that people do want to be as close and as intersecting as they can. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Here comes the word again, if it's mutual. But if one person is eclipsing another, or another doesn't feel free, it's not mutual. And so we've been looking at all of that, but absolutely we're going to look at, start next week, looking at 4 areas of work that I throw out there as things that can be very helpful.
Okay.
To help us
So my
disentangle.
relationship with my boss, just to come full circle and back
Yes.
up, I was eclipsing myself.
Yeah.
I was eclipsing myself. I wasn't
Right.
allowing my full self or full strength to be seen.
Right.
This is going to come as a huge shock to him when he reads the email I wrote today. Right? He's going to be like, what?
I look forward to all of us talking more about that next week, maybe. I mean, this will be interesting to see how it goes for him and then you.
You think, because that's an entanglement, right? This was not a...
Okay, I don't think what you did is an entanglement. I think it is a self-expression. I think the part of you...
The relationship, my relationship with him was an entanglement.
It was, Kacey, but I think today, I'm looking for my circles here, everybody. And my daughter is put this out on not only Zoom, but podcast for us. So she says, when I use my circles, I need to explain. So I have my yellow circle and my blue circle in my hand again, and they're transparent circles. They're colorful and pretty. Okay, I'm now overlapping them. That Kacey is talking about having eclipsed herself in the relationship. So Kacey, are you yellow or blue?
Blue.
Okay, so in this case, this part of Kacey with her boss, and I'm gesturing listeners to, I'm gonna make it a bit, it's like a little quarter moon piece here, is Kacey's self. Okay, Kacey, this is yourself. The overlapping is y'all's entanglement. This is the Kacey's self that spoke up today. What you said today came from this uneclipsing part of you that says, I have something to say that's distinctly my own, and I'm respectfully sharing it with you.
Wow. 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 So if I continue down this path, these 2 circles that are overlapping will become further apart. And that's
right. My hope, Kacey, is that your boss, okay, so several things. Your colleagues have responded from their sliver. They're now folks on a podcast, I'm gesturing to the other half moon that's sort of emerging, quarter moon that's emerging from the overlapping circles. When your colleagues responded, they were responding from their selves as well. That self who spoke to you, okay? And now what we want to see is if the boss responds from their self, or
from the
I think your concern, perhaps fear, is that the entangled stuff is where the boss will respond from. I look forward to hearing if the boss is able to respectfully respond from their self as well.
If you're listening on a podcast, you have to go find the YouTube Zoom call, because you have to see these circles, which I also hold up the book because the circles are on the book and the circles are very helpful. That right there was so clarifying to me that my stomach actually feels lighter. You know, that clenching of the stomach to realize I responded from my authentic part. My colleagues responded from their authentic part. And there's a freedom in your whole spirit of being when you operate from your authentic part and not your entangled part.
I'm glad, Kacey. That was beautiful. That's a great place. I do not want to add to your words. I
I'm
think
so
that's fabulous.
happy. Say hello to Tucker.
Tucker. Hello.
Bad boy bark collar on. All right,
Hi.
Nancy L. Johnston, we had a good day.
It's so exciting and wonderful to talk together, Kacey.
Now, next week, when we Zoom, I'm going to hit record at the hello.
Okay, and you all will hear whatever we come up with. Now,
Right.
I want to advertise for a minute, and
Please.
that is to say that we, thanks to Grace, my dear daughter, we have not only our own channel on YouTube now, we have an email address. So if you have watched this and want to write to Kacey and I with a topic, a question, it is nancyandkacey@gmail.com. Okay.
I like it. And just write to Nancy, because I'm busy.
Write to me.
I'm kidding. Nancy's going to write back. Nancy's going to write back.
This is mutual. So we're just going to mutual it all the way out. Who knows? Yeah. No, the answers are between us and with us. Yeah. And that's what's fun about the show for me.
Now, you were mentioning when you were out on your book tour, August, September, talking about Disentangle, when you've lost yourself in someone else, and you had other radio interviews. Did anybody else invite you back 3 times?
No. Somebody invited me back twice. Oh, 2 people invited me back twice. But nothing blossomed like this has.
Good.
It's good.
Right. I feel like you're my Monday Zoom playmate.
Well, I'm just so happy. The conversations are so rich. I'm sorry, you are my playmate too. I don't mean to give such a serious response. I'm just thrilled with the quality of our conversations, with the material and who we are and what we bring to it. Right. I just am glad to share this with listeners.
And she lives near where the Civil War happened, and I live where the Revolutionary War happened, parts of it. You missed that whole thing because I didn't start record in time. That was a good conversation. Yankee and Dixie. Okay, good talking to you. See you next week.
But I want to say, we're not Yankee and Dixie.
No.
We are global women. And that's where the conversation went to. Yeah. Yes. What's that, Kacey?
What's that?
We are global women. Isn't that where the conversation went to?
Yes, it's exactly where it went to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And glad to be.
Glad to be. All right. Wonderful talking to you. Everybody have a great week. We'll be back next week with more. Go check Monty and the cooler.
And Walters. Oh, go check
Walters. Yeah, go check Monty if he organized the cooler. And our husbands grew up one town away from each other in
Mamaroneck. Yeah, Mamaroneck.
And Rye. So my husband says to your husband, Walter's hot dogs, Sal's pizza.
Sal's pizza. Okay.
All right. Have a great week.
You too, Kacey.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.